Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. This is the Written Word Library and I am Alex. Today I am here talking about The Midnight Court. I read this book for a class. I took a class called Modern Ireland, which went from 1700 to today, pretty much. And we read this long poem, about 40 pages long. But it's this mythical, old Celtic story. It's almost as if they were trying to fight against the British, the Protestantism, the Christianity, really, and how Ireland had essentially been colonized. But don't worry, it's a lot more interesting than that. It follows this court where this guy ends up essentially like dreaming in a field, and he ends up in this midnight court, and it's about like men and women quarreling about the status of relationships. So you might think, oh wow, you originally would think this is some satire on the state of Ireland and what like a beautiful country it is and what the British are trying to do to it. But then it is so funny because you have this almost court of public opinion, because the Irish at this point, the courts are essentially considered corrupt. Sorry, the bug on me. The courts are essentially considered corrupt. And the idea is the only way you can get real justice is if you go to the fairy court, or in this case, the midnight court. And I do think this I do think this poem, I do think it speaks to some modern issues as well. Like, people are saying, I'm a great prospect. Why will no one marry me? And then in the story, because the woman is, I think in the story, the woman is the one who's claiming to be the victim here. She's the defendant for legal terms, and she's claiming that she can't find anybody, and she's like, I'm this beautiful woman, I'm so wonderful, yet no one wants to marry me. And then you have a couple men paint her in a very different light than she's painting herself in, which it was so funny. It's so funny, some of the things that she says about them, and then also what they say about her. And what I would say about this also is that when I read this, and this is going to sound kind of weird, I admit this is going to sound kind of weird, but it is the way to do it. There's a rhythm, there's a rhyme to this poem. It's one of those rhyming poems. And if you get into the flow of it, and if you say it out loud, because this was meant to be spoken, this was written in the 1700s. And the reason I call him, Brian Merriman, the Irish Shakespeare, is because it's so beautiful and the words just follow, like there's the iambic pentameter, there's certain things in poetry and literature that have a rhythm to it. This definitely follows that. And when I was reading this, I would read it out loud. But, and you can laugh, don't worry. I'm obviously an American. I have an American accent. I did it with a Irish accent. So I was reading the lines in an Irish accent, but I was making sure I kept the flow, and I had a blast. It's almost like you're doing your own audiobook is maybe the best way to explain it. Yeah, probably an audiobook is the best way to explain it. Like, you're reading a book, except you're performing the book, which I really do think it adds to the experience. And I'm not sure if there's any other works out there that kind of follow this, and let me know actually in the comments if you feel there's any work of literature, whether it's poems, novels, novellas, that it's better to say it out loud. I know a lot of people say Shakespeare is really good out loud. Like, performing Shakespeare is how you understand Shakespeare. You have to perform it. And I do think this poem would be really fun doing it that way. I do think, and I would love, and there might be adaptations. I honestly have not looked into adaptations, but this would be a really funny, like I know the Brits do like a Christmas episode for certain shows. I think this would be a really funny Christmas special. I think it would be a really funny thing to have at Christmas time, but it is a little raunchy. Okay, it is a little raunchy, which is why I think a lot of people will enjoy it, the raunchiness of it, but it is subtle. Okay, I'm not going to say that it's outright. Like, he's not saying certain things because you are at this point going from the Gaelic Irish to the Christian or Catholic Irish. So there are some constraints on language here where he's not just saying these things. If you know language enough and if you know how to read poems, you can pick up on what he's trying to say. And then you're like, oh snap, oh man, he just said that. It's really funny. It's really funny. I'll put it like up here or up here. I'll put the picture of it so you guys can buy a copy. You definitely could buy a copy on Amazon. But the author is, as I said, Brian Merriman, and it's been translated a million times. I mean, a million times. And one final thing before I go, is I'm really disappointed that this isn't talked about more. This was published around the same time as Jonathan Swift was publishing. So think Gulliver's Travels, those types of stories are what that was around the same time period, which I believe, though Gulliver's Travels, I haven't read it. I saw there was some Jack Black movie that they made at some point, but I've never seen it. I just know he was popular when I was growing up, and I remember he was being tied down by these natives, is what I'm guessing was the point. It was published around the same period of time, maybe 20, 40 years, give or take, in the 1700s. But it is hilarious, and it's, like I said, guys, it's modern. It's satirical, but it's also really enjoyable to read. And actually, sorry, this is the final thing. Trust me, this is the final thing. In this is based on a literary tradition in Ireland called the ashling, which is a literary style of presenting Ireland as this like beautiful woman. That's essentially what this poem is, in some respects, is presenting Ireland as this beautiful woman. So you are wondering when you're reading this, and you can, believe me, you can debate this with your friends, who's the beautiful woman? Like, is the beautiful woman Ireland? Is it England? Like, you can get into the symbolism and have some really great arguments with your friends about this. And I definitely encourage you to do that. So please, give this a read. The Irish Shakespeare, Brian Merriman, The Midnight Court. Great read. See you guys next video. Thanks for watching.